So now, this is an interesting one from William Molina Jr. Subject is Eric Bischoff disrespecting Ric Flair. Hello, K100 crew. In a recent Instagram post, the iconic Ric Flair raised concerns about not receiving the due respect for Eric Bischoff. Bro, these guys just keep bringing this up. It's a feud that will
25
never
years
end.
old.
Right? Number one, I guess Flair, got on Bischoff.
Well, you
again.
guys
Maybe
were
Bischoff,
probably. He's actually referring to, you guys are probably both there, the meeting that Eric had in like Minneapolis.
Well, that's what I was going to say. No, here's what I'm going to say.
Gone,
Let me finish the email. Let me finish the email.
I'm sorry. Yep.
During the tenure of Konnan and Disco Inferno with WCW, were there any instances, any of them observed or heard, where Eric might have shown a lack of respect towards Flair? And number two, were there moments where Eric Bischoff might have shown disregard or lack of respect towards either Konnan or Disco during their time at WCW? Well, absolutely. Okay, first of all, Flair, we had a meeting, and Bischoff was in front of everybody telling he was going to bankrupt Flair. Or what was the verbiage here? Remember Konnan? He was just ripping him.
Right.
I'm like, bro,
Flair,
I was.
What had happened was Flair.
Let me finish it here because I wanted to tell. Because we were like the young cats.
Then why do you ask me?
So this is like,
you're not going to let me
finish. Well, I'm saying, but I want to get my thing first. We were like the young cats, and we were like we grew up watching Ric Flair. This is like, now we're backstage, and like the guy's ripping the guy. Like I thought that was like, I was like, I can't believe I'm hearing this. Like, what was your take?
Exactly the same thing, because even though Rick could be obnoxious when he was drunk and say a lot of stupid, he was still Ric Flair, bro, and he was the best. He was the best, and he was so charismatic, and you have to give him a respect in that thing, right?
Right.
But he was saying, because what had happened was, for the people that don't know, is Flair didn't show up for work because he went to a wrestling meet with his son. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe he didn't tell Bischoff. I don't know, but he was under contract.
Bischoff said no, and Rick still went, basically.
Okay, so he had a meeting, and he was probably felt disrespected by Rick, who told him no, and said, "I'm going to bankrupt him. I'm going to get him for every dime he has. Mark my words." And he went into he was pissed.
Yeah.
And I was just going, bro, this is
a meeting. Everyone.
In front of everybody, where half the place, and if not everybody there, grew up watching Ric Flair. Yeah. Right,
bro.
And so you're saying it in front of the wrong crowd, bro.
Right.
Because I was thinking to myself, okay, he doesn't deserve this. I don't care. He just doesn't deserve this.
And
I thought it was very out of line.
Like you're literally saying, dude, I got into business because of Ric Flair. And like, you're burying this.
Right.
I'm going to quit.
What were you going to say, Joe?
Well, two things, if you guys remember. One was, and this is a quote I remember just from I saw it in a book and stuff, and Eric's talked about it on the podcast. It was basically Ric Flair's, a crook, a cheat, but everyone lets him get away with it because he's Ric Flair, was one thing Eric said. And the other thing was, which offended a lot of guys. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah,
everybody let him get away with anything
because he was guys too. It's not like he didn't have heat,
right.
Steiner couldn't stand the guy.
Yeah.
And he also said, which offended a lot of guys there, I'm sure, he doesn't draw anymore. The only three guys in this room that draw money are Hogan, Savage, and Piper.
He did say that.
Yeah.
And I remember people coming up to me and going, he must not know that you drew in Mexico. I said, this is exactly what I said. Why would he? You know what I'm saying?
Plus, Hall and Nash were probably right there. Hall and Nash were major draws for WCW.
Okay, let me tell you this too. Is that they also asked, did Eric ever disrespect Konnan or Disco? Well, he fired me. Okay, so but he absolutely disrespected Konnan. We had another meeting in Vegas, and he called Raven out. Said, if you want to leave, go leave now. And Raven got up and walked out of the room. Then he called you out in front of everybody. Konnan, if you want to leave too, you want about to come. I don't like Eric's like throwing flames. Eric came into that meeting with a flamethrower, right? And none of us, and we all had gasoline on ourselves. Okay, get away from this guy.
What I had heard, and I don't even know if it was from DDP or somebody else, but that DDP had said, "Bro, the locker room's getting out of hand, and you need to make an example of a couple people." And Raven's supposed to be his boy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But and bro, he disrespected me a lot of times, but to tell you the truth, I disrespected Eric a lot of times too, and so I remember one time he was like, "Oh yeah," he goes, "You're lucky to be here and you're not wrestling on some barn in Mexico." I go, "Dude, I've never wrestled in a barn in Mexico," and so that I remember one time, I've told this story before, but he told me and Billy Kidman, this was in, where did the Islanders play? In Islip?
Long
Where
Island.
did they? Long Island. Uniondale, that's what it was. And he told us there in Uniondale, yeah, you guys are always complaining. I don't remember what it was. And he says, I was going to hire some guys to give you a blanket party. You know, like when they throw a blanket over you and just
like Full Metal Jacket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just two things real quick about that. Raven has said that when this meeting took place, dude had been up for like 2 days straight, just taking, never coming down, just pop, 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 you know. And also that when he got up to leave and he went out, the door closed, and he turned to say, man, Konnan, that was, and he thought you were with him and you weren't behind him or something like that, you know.
Well, because they were still with me.
Yeah.
No, here's the reason I stayed. Because I said, well, if you let Rey Mysterio leave, I'll leave. He goes, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Right.